Hello and welcome to this podcast. My name is Chris Evans. I am Deputy Head of School for Hair, Beauty and Sport in Southern Regional College. The subject that I am discussing is my assessment and feedback strategy, and it's for the module Facilitating Assessment for Learning and Impact as part of my Level 7 Digital Learning course. Assessment traditionally has been viewed as a measurement tool to determine the achievement or otherwise of a student. Feedback was often amplification of the reasons for the assessment result. More recently, assessment and feedback have been reimagined as part of the learning process, i.e. formative assessment and feedback to support learning, as well as mechanisms for determining and justifying final awards. Assessment and feedback have recently been a focus in the higher education world through the HEA, but my role is exclusively in further education. FE policy on assessment and feedback at the sector level in Northern Ireland is not as well developed as HE. FE means success only mentions assessment twice in relation to education process, both times in the phrase teaching, learning and assessment where it's lumped in with the others. All other occurrences relate to assessment of the efficiency and effectiveness of the policy. Feedback is similarly only mentioned in relation to feedback from stakeholders relating to the policy itself. SRC policy covers the need for assessment to be fit for purpose in order to certify learners. It also defines the need for both formative and summative assessment, but it's in no way prescriptive. This is probably because the organisation deals with 46 awarding bodies and many types of qualification, so there's an inherent difficulty of any single policy to explicitly cater for this range in any detail. As an organisation as well, our focus in recent years has been on training to improve the quality of teaching and learning, and much less direct focus on assessment and feedback. For example, most of my students study BTEC FE programs. Here I've taken the specification of one of our Public Service Level 3 programs and compared them to Griffith University's 8 Principles for Good Assessment. So we can see here the awarding body requires all 8 principles as part of any assessment and also included transparency. But I would also consider that there should be 2 other factors from an organisational perspective. All assessments should be manageable and sustainable for long-term success. The problem that I identified was with this public services programme, and it occurs in 4 outdoor education related units. As they focus on practical skills and our criteria and reference qualifications, the student must demonstrate proficiency in order to achieve a good grade. Unlike other units, they cannot be fully assessed in college. So e.g. the use of a climbing wall and external coaches, this has a significant resource implications in terms of cost, time, and the hire of external venues, etc. The grading criteria for land-based adventurous activity rewards independent and advanced skills, but the guidance is sufficiently broad to allow a range of adventurous activities to be included. This breadth has resulted in a lack of clarity for assessment purposes as to what is exactly expected in terms of skills requirements for learners. The awarding body requires supplementary evidence to confirm achievement and has been viewed as a burden on the tutor in the past. I met with staff and students over several weeks to discuss my concerns over the low grades achieved in comparison to other more traditional essay-based units. Students starting this unit had no previous experience of climbing and they felt they didn't have a fair chance to improve. They also weren't clear on what was needed to get higher grades. Another problem was that as the climbing took place over 2 sessions 1 week apart, a student who missed either session was unlikely to have achieved enough for a pass grade, and a higher grade was not achievable. It also had a potentially catastrophic result that the student could fail not just the unit, but effectively fail the whole course. So was this model fair and transparent? I felt not. And also, did the assessment, teaching, learning and learning outcomes all align? Again, I felt not. Here I have summarised my key learning from the stakeholder engagement. Students enjoyed the practical unit, but they weren't clear about the requirements for a higher grade. They wanted more feedback and opportunities to improve. Staff wanted to improve grades and remove the risk of failure due to a student having a single absence. Assessment had to become more objective and transparent. It had to make the best use of classroom and external venues as part of the process, and we had to provide asynchronous support, formative assessment and opportunities for students to improve. Unlike most of the other FE units, this particular one focuses on the acquisition and demonstration of physical motor skills in specific activities. One of the key theories of motor skill learning is Fitz and Posner's 1967 multi-stage theory of learning. To summarise, there are 3 stages of skill development, from the basic trial and error of the cognitive stage through the associative stage, culminating in the autonomous stage where the skill is fluent, efficient and performed at the appropriate time with the intended result. Fitz and Posner state that to move through the stages, practice and feedback are required. Both were lacking in the previous model and needed to be part of the revised strategy. So after my stakeholder engagement, I was in a position to revise my delivery model. Initially, we would focus on the classroom, and the basic skill acquisition that previously was done at the centre would now be done in the college. So putting on harnesses, learning to tie knots and learning to belay could be done in college to allow more time for actual climbing when we got to the centre. Skills and techniques wise, we would try and flip the classroom by using expert YouTube climbing videos from a channel called Neil Gresham's Masterclass. Secondly then, we revised the practical instruction and assessment. So now we would use a 3-week model instead of a 2-week model. So on the 3rd week of instruction, we would go for initial climbing. That would allow us some initial formative assessment and feedback. We would visit again in week 5 for some consolidation, where again there'd be further formative feedback, and that would be supported by video evidence and peer feedback. The idea would be that students would take videos of each other climbing and doing the key techniques, and then they'd be able to upload those to our VLE, and they'd be able to peer assess each other. Weeks 5 to 12 then was devoted to self-directed practice time. This would be where the students could self-assess based upon the achievement of their climbing grades, but also comparison of their technique to the YouTube videos. And this would culminate then in week 12, a summative and assessment feedback session. So the model was put into place for the first semester of the 2016-17 academic year. So we wanted to create more opportunities for students to improve their own performance. Well, we did this by increasing from 2 sessions in 2 weeks to 3 sessions over 9 weeks. We wanted to provide clear evidence requirements for merit and distinction grades. What happened there was we set a clear set of assessment indicators for each grade. These were created by staff with expert advice and then shared with the students. We wanted to provide more opportunities for formative assessment and feedback to students. And again, this was done through increasing from 2 to 3 sessions, but also we provided informal feedback and formal formative assessment through students videoing each other and giving not only self-assessment, peer assessment and tutor comments too. We wanted to increase the amount and proportion of time at the climbing facility practicing climbing skills. So by teaching the safety skills of tying in and belaying and assessing those initially in the college, we had more time on the rock face for students. We wanted to mitigate against failure to achieve based upon a single absence. Now, because we have formal formative assessment and safety skills assessment prior to the summative assessment day, those can contribute towards a final grade. We also wanted the timing of summative assessment at a point that more reliably matched the students' performance capabilities. Again, by taking cognizance of Fitz and Posner, summative assessments now moved to a period where the students' improvements have plateaued and reached the associative skill phase. Lastly, we wanted to improve the students' achievement. And this year, all the students have reached a climbing grade of 4 at least, with all achieving merit standard or better, a significant improvement on previous years. When measured against Sample et al. 2013, we can see that the assessment has become more realistic and authentic. There's now a better balance of formative and summative assessment with ongoing feedback. Time and opportunity for practice have been built in, and there are now clear assessment rubrics which have allowed the students to self and peer assess much more effectively. Biggs and Tang 2011 cite Elton 1987 and is termed backwash, i.e. students focus on assessment and they see this as having a negative connotation. In this instance, we felt it had a positive result as the students demonstrated higher assessment literacy due to the clearer rubrics. Now the ILO's learning activities and assessment methods are much more clearly aligned. Next, I want to try and quantify our process improvements against the HEA model. Elkington 2016 introducing a framework for transforming assessment in higher education. Well, we believe now that we've created an assessment for learning culture. The assessment is far more authentic. It balances summative and formative assessment over the process. We have opportunities for experimentation from the students and we've developed them as self-assessors. We've also designed opportunities for informal feedback, and that's hopefully well designed and planned. Under the previous strategy, learners and to some extent the assessor were unclear regarding the exact standards required to achieve independence and advanced skills. After creating clear, explicit assessment rubrics that were shared with the learners, performance standards and results improved. Formative assessment decisions and feedback created a fairer and more transparent process. Students were more objectively able to appraise and self-assess also against performance standards. So therefore, I feel we have succeeded in removing the hidden curriculum. So in conclusion, assessment and feedback in FE require further emphasis and development in the curriculum to support learning. The balance and timing of formative assessment and feedback and summative assessment are of key importance. Learning and assessment of physical or motor skills require consolidation periods that need to be built into the programme. Building students' assessment literacy can help learning and achievement. Using technology appropriately, as we have, can improve sustainability of assessment workload for staff. And further work needs to be done in expanding the format and structure of electronic feedback, an area where I hope to focus on shortly. I hope you've enjoyed my podcast and thank you very much for listening.